Only occasionally is there a song which captures a message so deep and so clearly that it uncovers our reality. It doesn't matter what age you were born into, there was and is a fortress of ideas forged around your being. Some of what encloses you in this fortress is the biological imperative that all men share. But this enclosure was not chosen by you, and as such is a prison from which you are free to stay or free to leave. Something else that encloses within any fortress of any age are the loudest of those voices within that fortress that glorify and justify those walls and construct other battlements and defenses to keep those inside from hearing of the outside and to keep those inside from wanting to get outside. Our current age is an opportunity to see clearly those walls and hear clearly the destructive calls of those loud voices, as they are currently calling for the disposability of men, and we can witness this destruction in statistics, in countless testimonies, in what we witness with our own eyes, that no amount of sugarcoating can hide.
I recognize the ones that I once slain. Had to stop in my tracks for fear, walking on the mines I laid. And if I build this fortress around your heart, circle you with trenches and barbed wire. Let me build a bridge, build a chasm. Let me set the battlements on fire.
The walls were constructed in one's youth and historically go unnoticed. The red pill lets us see the walls and know the lies as lies. There are many ways to deal with this knowledge of the gyno system's manipulation of men's nature, the weaponization of men's nature against men. MRAs stay inside the fortress, inside the plantation, and make the best of it. The PUAs continue to value their biologic imperative while attempting to game the system. As such, they are free to walk across a bridge to venture outside the plantation, but rather maintain their valuing of their biologic imperative and seek a slight variation on the past forms of control. Mgtow create their own way and cross a bridge of self-creation outside of the plantation and remain there, refusing to give value to forces they did not choose, refusing to listen to those loud voices calling for obedience. But there are recently new voices being heard who wish to stay on the plantation and just remodel it, redecorating the walls to give the appearance of freedom, but only replacing subservience of their desires to women to subservience of their desires to dolls or trannies or other replacement valuations. Rather than fighting the forced imposition upon them by biology and social narratives, they seek currently deviant ways to remain within the plantation, ways that may one day soon be not deviant, but rather be co-opted so as to control these men by different means which are just as heartless and lead to just the same disposability. I will focus a discussion on Mgtow and the plantation redecorators. Mgtow have thought things through and created a valuation that places sovereignty, as well as sanity, freedom, and self-preservation, atop the valuation system. In this, Mgtow avoid the danger of allowing others access to control their lives, and have transferred their natural inclinations into non-gynocentric pursuits, ghosting their intentions and thus providing no ring upon which a leash may be attached. This stance reminds me so deeply of that great work of philosophy, The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. Boethius, an educated man in Goth-controlled Rome, was put into prison and came to that unalterable conclusion that King Theodoric could take anything from him but his mind. And that is where he lived while in prison and wrote that book from which I quote, "No man can ever truly be secure until he has been forsaken by fortune." Forsaken by fortune means that everything of value has been taken away, and the realization comes that weakness and pain result from the decision to value things that can be taken away. After his realization of this, they could no longer take what was important to Boethius, and indeed he himself could not give it, as what was important was Boethius's own self-image and pursuit of greater awareness of the human experience. How can you take this? How can you give this? Mgtow assumed this stance in a battle with himself, not in a battle to manage control from outside, but to override access for anyone to exert any such external control. The plantation redecorators, on the other hand, choose to fight externally in a material battle and not a battle within. The reason for not fighting such an internal battle may be that it is uncommon and also hard to do. They think the problem is with women and not with men's expectations and desires for women, not in the valuing one places on the world, but in the world forcing itself upon one. Thus, instead of changing those expectations and desires, they seek to replace women by other objects of desire, to fulfill their biological and cultural expectations, keeping securely within the walls of the plantation and giving an opening for eventual control. Someone wrote in a comment on a video, "Bought better than thought." Okay, but what about tranny better than thought? Or homo better than thought? Or as someone else indicated, goat better than thought? Are we now making lists like this? Nawalt better than bod, better than tranny, better than homo, better than goat, better than refrigerator, better than thought. Do you see how this looks? The PUA takes the thought and the married expat takes the Nawalt. Mgtow ignore all of it. The plantation redecorators are bargaining with their programming, admitting they cannot win the fight against themselves, giving the powers that seek to control them a means of controlling them. Boethius fought and won with his beloved philosophy, but yes, that is not for all men. Each man can fight for his absolute sovereignty against those forces in his own way, but not to fight is not to be Mgtow. I say don't give up on your sovereignty and don't give up on that fight. You were raised to be subservient and were told not to fight, and if you did fight, you cannot win. But I contend that you can win, and that this fight is men's individual destiny. I say you can defeat your biological body's attempt to keep your whole being locked within its evolutionary past and within the narratives used to control you. In the long term, it is needed to have men who fight against building their own prison and ripping down any prison anyone else tries to erect to fence in all men.
Walking on the mines and later, if I build this fortress around your heart, circle you with trenches and barbed wire. Let me build a bridge, build a chasm. Let me set the battlements on fire. This prison's now become your a sentence you